I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 238, The Truth. If your husband is struggling with a pornography problem and you want some help with it and you are not finding the resources that you like, you are in the right place. My name is Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach. I am an active member of the LDS faith, and I am the wife of a former porn addict. And on this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools that you need in order to start your healing journey. This is where I'm going to show you how to dive deep into intentional living, how to rekindle connection with your spouse, how to manage all that emotional turmoil that you're feeling, how to break the addiction cycle that you have to your husband's addiction, and tell you all of the ways to do that and start healing. I am so glad that you're here, and I can't wait to get started. Let's go. All right, my ladies, welcome. I hope you guys are having a great Christmas holiday. I just got back from Disney World with my kids, my parents, my sister, and my brother and their families, and it was a blast and exhausting. And we walked, I think, between 5 and 8 miles a day, just around every single park. And it was so fun. I highly recommend going to these kinds of places when your youngest child is old enough that they can ride all the rides. Unless your youngest is 48 inches tall, you're going to be doing a lot of standing around and not riding rides. It's a lot more fun, which I have done multiple times. But this time was so much more fun. The last time we went, the one time prior to this, I had a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, a 6-month-old, and I was pregnant. And we said, okay, we're not doing this again until our youngest is as old as our oldest is now. And it was totally worth it. It was 1,000% worth the wait. It was amazing. So much fun. But I am so glad to be back. And I feel like my Christmas is so short because I went on a vacation in December, which I don't normally do. And I feel a little frazzled. I feel like maybe you guys feel this way too. I've been talking to a couple of my friends. They all feel this way. Like December is just busy. There's class parties, and my kids aren't even in school. They're homeschooled, so we don't even have that. But there's class parties and neighborhood parties and church parties and, friend get-togethers, and it feels like we have something like almost and piano recitals, and we feel like we almost have something every single day. And I just want to encourage you, this is what I told my friend, to just delete as much as you want. You don't have to go to every single party. You are allowed for this to be an experience for you. And maybe even if you normally have no problem with all of it, it's totally okay to slow down and say, okay, maybe this season, this Christmas, what do I want it to look like? Maybe you can even do that with your spouse. What do we want this to look like for our family? You are allowed to have this Christmas look different than every other Christmas just because you want to. So if you want to delete things, go for it. If you want to say yes to everything, go for it. But make sure that you're doing it from a place where you feel this is the way in order to create the experience and the feeling that you want this Christmas. Okay, I give you total permission to do that. All right? Okay, 2 quick things. One is I wanted to tell you guys, I dropped a bonus podcast episode last week on private one-on-one coaching. For the year of 2025, I have 3 one-on-one private coaching spots, and one of them just got filled. So now I have 2 left. All of the details are in that previous podcast episode. It's a bonus podcast episode. So for those of you who are subscribed, you saw that come out, but you guys can just go listen to it. It has all of the details. And this is your opportunity to work with me privately one-on-one for the entire year of 2025. Again, all the details are in there, but I would encourage you, if you want to do private coaching, this is a great chance to get in, okay? The other thing I wanted to let you guys know is that I am doing a brand new masterclass that is going to be the first week of January. Let me look up those dates really fast. It's January 6th through January 9th. And this is kind of my spin on a New Year's resolution class. I really don't want it to just be about resolutions. I want it to be about you and how we can get you off on a really solid foundation for the year, especially if 2024 was not your year. If it was not the year that you thought you would have, if it was not the year you envisioned and you don't want 2025 to be a repeat, then this will be the class for you. I'm going to link it in the show notes so that you can go ahead and go sign up, get all the details, save your spot. This class is going to be a 4-day live masterclass on Zoom. I'm teaching it inside my coaching program, but I'm opening up some spots so that those of you who really want to set a good foundation and have a good direction for the next year, you can do that. Because here's the thing, when we don't redirect our brain on purpose, then our brain just goes on what it has been doing. And that's how we feel like we live in kind of a Groundhog Year. Have you guys seen that movie, Groundhog Day? Okay, so on Groundhog Day, if you guys haven't seen this movie, it's a good movie. At least I remember it being. I haven't seen it in 15 years. But Groundhog Day is the guy wakes up, and every day he wakes up and it's the same day. So he relives the same day over and over and over. And that's what most of us do in our life. We live the same year over and over and over. And that's because we haven't actually changed the patterns that are in our brain. We haven't changed our thought patterns. We haven't changed our beliefs. We haven't changed who we are. And so we keep just trying to set new goals in order for the goal or the motivation to be the thing, the resolve to be the thing that's going to make it creatable, in order for us to finally do the thing that we said we're going to do, lose the weight, save the money, go back to school, whatever it is that we think we're going to do. We think that just setting the goal every January is going to be the thing that gets us there, and that we just have to willpower our way harder in order to accomplish it. And that's not true. In this class, this masterclass that I'm teaching, I'm calling it A Year for You. I'm going to actually walk you through a process of being able to come into changing those patterns from the inside out. And when we do that intentionally and kind of redefine who you are on purpose and what you want, it makes the accomplishment of those goals inevitable and easy. And that's what I want for you. So again, I'll put the link in the show notes. You can come join that. It's $149 to join for the entire week. I do have a discount code that I will put in the show notes for you guys to use so that you can get $50 off. So sign up today, save your spot. Okay, ladies, let's dive into today's topic, which is truth. This was inspired by a question. I was messaging a client of mine, and she was telling me some things that were going on with her husband. And what was difficult, and I know so many of you are in the same situation or similar situations, where she feels like she has evidence that her husband has lied to her, but her husband is like standing firm in his story, okay? And he has denied. And she feels like even though they've had conversations and she's shown him the evidence, he is refusing that is what is true. And so she wants to move forward. And she said, how am I supposed to move on from this? How am I supposed to trust him again if I never know the truth? And so it really got me thinking that I wanted to do this podcast because I want to dive into truth, okay? So first of all, what is truth? Here, I'm going to ruffle some feathers. You guys ready? Truth is totally subjective. Here's what I mean by that. Most of us think that there is just some existential truth that exists out there, and that's how we are seeing it. That there just is truth, and we are taking it in or observing it in our lives. And what's actually happening is that there are circumstances, and then we have our thoughts about them. Everything that we think is truth is just our perception of it, okay? Bear with me, okay, ladies? This is not necessarily a bad thing. I just want to make you aware of it, because what we're actually doing is we're always experiencing our world through our own lens. Okay? You are always experiencing it from your own perspective. So for example, I'm sitting here and I'm recording my podcast, and the truth that I see is that I'm looking directly at this computer screen. But if my husband were sitting right next to me, he would also be looking at the same computer screen, but he would be looking at it from a different angle. And so because of his angle, his gaze would see more of the room at a different direction. And so his quote unquote truth would be different than mine. Both are accurate. But that's why truth is subjective, is because it's all from our own perspective. And that's exactly what happens internally for all of us. When we experience a situation, when we experience a circumstance, we have our own interpretation of that experience, of those circumstances, and we think that is the truth. This is what happened. But if anybody has ever watched a Law and Order episode knows, is that there's all these different variations of truth. If truth were such an objective reality, then nobody would ever have a different opinion about it. The truth is that it's always subjective. It is through our own lens that we see it, okay? Now, I'm saying this even understanding that I do believe in an objective truth. As religiously, right? I'm a Christian. I believe that God exists. I believe that he has a son, Jesus Christ. I've been thinking about it a lot with Christmas being next week. I believe in a savior. I believe that that is true. But I also know that if it were just objectively true and that is what everybody saw, then everybody would agree with me, and they don't, because they're allowed to have their own thoughts and beliefs. And that's a beautiful thing, right? So that's just one example of what I want you to know, is that yes, I do believe that there is capital T truth, but I think that our society has gotten far away from accepting that our own perceptions are perceptions, and we call them truth in order to solidify our claim on them. Here's what I mean by that. Is if you have a conversation with people today, you're going to say that you hear people say like, well, this is my truth and this is your truth and you need to respect my truth. Okay, well, all you're really saying is this is my opinion and this is the way that I saw it happen. But when we use the word truth, when we say this is my truth, we're saying it almost as if it's non-negotiable. And what I want to offer is that everything that you experience, all of the thoughts that you have, all of the patterns that you think, everything that you come into a conversation or experience with, all of that is negotiable. And this is the best news ever, because this means that you can actually take a step back and look at it and say, is this what I want to choose to continue to believe or not? And because of that, that's how we can gain back all of the control. Because if it were true that there just was capital T truth and that was just how it had to be, then we could never shift. We would be stagnant. We would have to be immovable, and then there would be no possibility of changing. And that's not true at all. We can always change, even if you never get the quote unquote capital T truth about something that happened. Okay, so if we go back to the example with my client, she's like, how do I move on if I don't actually know the capital T truth of what happened? Well, here's the reality, is that even if she did know, without a doubt, if somebody came and showed her video evidence that her husband was telling the truth, she still gets to choose how she takes that in. She still gets to choose how she thinks about it. She could still choose to doubt it. She could choose to believe that he made that up, that he paid that person, that it's all AI, that it wasn't actually real evidence anyway. And she could still choose to not trust him. Now, I'm not saying that this gives him a pass and that he shouldn't be honest. I totally think that he should, but we have no control over that. And whether or not he is honest, she still gets to decide how she's going to move forward. So in answer to that question, how do I move forward if I don't actually know the truth? The answer is however you want. How do you want to move forward? Do you want to choose to believe that he is lying, or do you want to choose to believe that he's telling the truth? Do you want to choose to believe that you are mistaken, or do you want to hold on to this idea for the rest of your marriage that you are the one that's telling the truth, you have the evidence, and he's lying to you, and he's denying something that happened? You get to choose, and maybe it changes, because at some points you do. I have, in various points of my marriage, chosen not to trust my husband on purpose. I said, I don't want to trust him right now. I know the consequences of this. I know this is going to increase anxiety because my brain is going to be looking for red flags because I'm saying that my husband is not trustworthy, and I'm totally okay with it. That's what I want right now. And then I have chosen to shift it. So I am at a point where, yes, I 100% trust my husband in all the areas and all the ways, but it was something I decided to shift on purpose, deciding to believe I have all the information that I need. I don't need anymore. And that's one of the things that was so fascinating about this question. And why I wanted to bring this up is because it kind of brings to mind this idea of asking that, like, how do I move on if I don't have the truth? It leaves you moving on and healing up to whether or not you have received the story that you want to receive. What if she already has the truth? What if you already have the truth? What if you already have all the information you're ever going to get? Are you holding yourself hostage by refusing to allow yourself to move forward unless you have more information? Now, this is very normal. Our brain wants information. Our brain is very used to predicting things based on information. We think, okay, well, how am I supposed to move forward if I don't have more information? Basically, what she's saying is, I need to know whether or not my husband is trustworthy before I decide to trust him. That's what she wants. She wants to know, okay, can someone prove to me if he's lying or telling the truth? Because that would make this easier. But the truth is, ladies, is that you get to decide. And whether or not you have evidence doesn't make it easier to move forward. You decide to move forward at any time in your life. You can choose that even if nothing changes. What if this is all the information you ever get? Do not hold your healing hostage by refusing to move forward unless you have more information. More information is not going to make you feel better. Our brain thinks information makes us feel better. That's why it wants to consume more. It thinks if I just understood this, if I just knew more, then it would change how I feel. But the information that you learn is a circumstance. And you can choose how you think about that circumstance. And that circumstance doesn't create your feelings. More information into your brain does not make you less anxious. This is why there are so many people who are anxious, and they actually get more anxious the more they consume. Because information is not the thing that reduces anxiety, okay? It's your thoughts about the information. So if you keep thinking, I need to know more, then you're constantly going to be in a pursuit of trying to obtain more information, whether that's checking his phone or trying to catch him in a lie or whatever it is. You're trying to consume more information in order to make yourself feel better. But the reality is the only way to make yourself feel better is to actually work on what the thoughts are that are creating the emotion, learning how to process that emotion, and then give yourself permission to let that emotion go. It is a doable process. Very simple, not easy, but very simple once you know how to do it, okay? So if you really want to know how is it that we move on and heal, even when we don't know the whole story, or maybe we do know the whole story and that's the problem, right? It's like, okay, I have all of this truth. I have all of this information. How do I move on from that? It's as simple as learning how to process your emotions and then choosing how you think about it. But I want to caution you again, ladies, in how you tell your story of whether or not something is true, okay? I want you to understand, I want to offer to you that it's possible to be aware that this is all subjective. This is my subjective truth. This is what I think about this situation. And when you create that space, that is when it becomes movable. That is when it becomes flexible. That is when we can change that story. And what I'm not saying is that it's invalidating what happened or your perception or how you were affected by what happened. You are 100% affected by what happened, but you also have 100% control over that, okay? You have 100% control over how you were affected, because how you were affected is how you feel about it, how you think about it, okay? And that is always within your control. So don't get caught. I want to caution you against getting stuck in this idea that there's a truth that either you have to figure out or that you have the truth about what happened. Maybe you do, but even if you do, it's still coming with your individual spin, your individual thoughts, your individual perspective. It's through your lens. You are always observing that truth through your lens. And it's the beauty of this is that then you get to notice that all of this means that you get to control what happens next. You get to control how you tell your story, not because how you've been telling it isn't correct or invalidated in any way. We just don't need to validate or justify how you were affected, all the emotions that you're feeling, by telling the same story over and over. Your feelings are valid simply because you feel them. But just because they're real doesn't mean they're true. I tell my clients this all the time. Your feelings are real, but they're not true. So, capital T, truth. Does it exist? No. Truth is subjective. And that's a beautiful thing because that's what's going to allow you to move forward. All right? I love you ladies so much. I hope you guys have a great week. Take a look at those links in the show notes, and I will see you guys next week. So take care. All right, my lady, if you love what you're hearing on the podcast and you're ready to take it and apply it in your life to see a true transformation, then I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. Now is the best time because I have just added an annual membership, so you can join for the lowest price ever. Get all the details on my website, jolenewind.com, and don't forget to sign up for a free consultation call with me today. We'll get on the call, we'll talk about where you are, what you're struggling with, and then we'll see what is the right fit for you and your budget. Again, go to my website, jolenewind.com, sign up for a call, and I'll see you there.